Welcome, good Erev Shabbos, Parshas Hazinu, right before Sukkot, the year of miracles of the redemption. That means wherever we feel trapped, we're going to spring out from brighter than ever. So the whole week we've been learning the Maimer B'Kacha of the Rebbe Maharash, and it is leading up to a discussion of the ultimate reward, which is Tainu Bayra, the experience of Hashem's pleasure. His pleasure in what we do, our efforts, our Veda. So there were people, like for example, the Avos, Avram, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, who they had a taste of the redemption in their world, in our world. They lived in a different world while in our world. They lived in a world where they had miraculous success, miraculous wisdom, because they were prophets, and they married prophets that were even more powerful in prophecy than themselves. They experienced the world to come before everybody else. So they were in a very nasty place. Welcome. A very nasty place, but they convinced a lot of people to follow their way. Monotheism was born. So it says that Shel Avos hit Iman HaKadosh Baruch Hu Me'ein Olam Haba. They had a preview, the fathers, they had a preview of the promised reward in this world. V'hainu b'Yaakov ma shekaru HaKadosh Baruch Hu Keil. And that's why Yaakov is called by the name of the Almighty Himself, Keil. Shezeu me'ein Hashem Hashai Elmes. The reason why it's those two letters, Aleph and Lamed, is the gematria of 31, which you get the 310 when you go by tens. So God recognized that something about Yaakov was perfectly balanced and harmonious, and that reflected God's name, Keil, and for doing that, he gets times 10, the gematria, 310 worlds of delight. That Hashem is destined to bequeath to the Jewish people. So it comes out that in exchange for the tithing that Jacob did, he experienced a preview edition of the world to come, which was 10 times more intense than what he put in. So the 310 worlds, each one is a world unto itself. Hainu lamed al pamim eser hanal. The 310 is 31 times 10. Therefore, you see, you can multiply by tens here in this world, and everything goes by the Dewey Decimal System, where every tiny thing counts, and you accomplish so much here. So it's a tremendous advantage of this world. Because there were 613 commandments that were given to Moshe on Mount Sinai, Shem Beis Pamim Yesh, which is twice 310 when you add the 7 of the rabbinical. That is the 620 pillars of Keser. So you're basically crowned when you do the 620 mitzvahs, when you count the 7 rabbinical. With the 613, that's twice shy. You put in the effort of Keil, you tithe, you get 310. You double it because Hashem is good, and that comes to 620, the crown. The only way you can have the perfection of God's crown is when in this world people turn to Hashem and they do good things. And God insists that we get the reward of our efforts in the world to come. So what we accomplish is already here, true, welcome, menachem. But we simply can't, we don't have the oyen. We don't have the eyes that can see it. In the world to come, Hashem will open our eyes. It's more credible, more worthy to have striven to have done that yourself, to try and open our eyes, as the Rebbe describes it. And that reward is called Kimseis Chasen al Kala, when the groom revels over the bride. Yasis Alayka Likayak. That's the way Hashem will revel over your soul and make you consoled firstly, and then feel like you are his precious. Yasis hem beis pamim yesh. The word rejoice, like a groom on the bride, that rejoicing is twice yesh. You can see it's got the word yesh twice. Yasis is like yesh yesh. So there's the 620, the 620 pillars, the crowns. In the future to come, there will be the reward for your service that right now is kept in a very safe place, in a very high place. The reason for this is because the reason why we double shy, you get, well, that's the word yosis, that's Hashem's response. For you're using your yesh for the right thing, and therefore you're given the 310 worlds that it equals. The 310, and when you have it, you have two things. Chachma and Bina, ki kana chachma, kana bina hem, rak hem pei aleph yesh. No, ham echad yesh. When you have wisdom and understanding, kana is 155. Kana is said twice. You acquire wisdom, you acquire understanding. So the acquire is twice, and that equals 310. 155 plus 155. So through wisdom and understanding, you can get the 310, but until you actually are in a physical body, which is not just ideas, but you do mitzvahs and you do the rabbinical 7, then that's yasis, that's worthy of God's rejoicing upon it, that you double yesh and you get 620. That is the whole cause of our celebration in the future to come. The fact that Hashem shines us as his crown, Eishes Chayil Ateros Baila. The king's crown is the Eishes Chayil. So Hashem rejoices upon us because we didn't limit it to just the world of ideas, Chachma and Bina, Kana Chachma, Kana Bina. That would be 310, but we applied ourselves in the physical world, giving charity and not just talking about it. So Hashem rejoices upon us. He doubles it to 620. And that's the crown that we're adorned with in the future redemption. And that's what we celebrate. So it seems like Hashem's not quite happy with his creations, us, in our history. We had a rough history. And it's in the future tense. It says, Yismach Hashem b'maisav. He will rejoice in the deeds of his hands. Asiya Kadosh Baruch Hu yismach b'maisem shel Yisrael. In the future, Hashem will rejoice in what we have done, what we've accomplished, what we've accumulated. It's not enough just to do good things and keep it in a treasury in the world of Atzilus and be a spiritual effect. And that's why specifically in the future tense it says that Hashem will rejoice in his handiwork, but what he made. And that is the main experience of celebration that we await. So we started with the whole idea that it's associated specifically with Bina. Bina is the place where what we celebrate on holidays. There's an extra shining in the spiritual realm. We spoke about this morning, and we set ourselves up like it's going on there symbolically through the mitzvahs that we are gifted with. And that is the way that we experience that inspiration that exists very clearly in the spiritual realm. But that's your soul's experience, and you have to be attuned with that. You're attuned with that when you reflect what's going on in the spiritual world. In the spiritual realm, during Sukkot, during holidays, God is shining, and the souls are delighting because it's extra brilliant. And I think we should say L'chaim, Erev Shabbos. Menachem, I hope you've come equipped with something as good as that. Yes, I get royalties. You just made me at least 33 cents. 2/3 go to the sponsor, the platform, Zuckerberg. Should I just pay him in meta coins? Do meta coins have a value yet? Bitcoin has value. What's the difference? Some binary code will have value. It's just a promise, right? It's a way to ensure your promise is fungible. This is another way to make it fungible. Okay. So it comes out that the meaning of it is more beautiful one moment of turning back to Hashem and doing good things in this world, because there's 620 opportunities here, double the 310, which is double the 155, the kana, the acquisition. And that's how you draw down the 622 pillars. The ability to cause the reward is greater, is more beautiful than the actual reward. That is the 310 worlds, half of the 620. That Hashem bequeaths to the righteous in the world to come. So that is the true reward that's promised. And through whatever you do now, that causes there to be the rejoicing of that Hashem is said to rejoice like a hero, like a gibor, like a hero. That this is accomplished now, so it's called yafa, it's called beautiful, but the light itself is something that's treasured away and only revealed in holidays, yes, but in general, in the future time. When I say the future time, I mean now, obviously. Avram had it thousands of years ago. It's been around all the time. So that's why we say The reward of a mitzvah is the mitzvah. Because the idea of reward that's for the mitzvah that you do in this world, is that you'll see what you have done by being a nice person to your compatriots. And it's not just the shine, but it's the actual full awareness of what a mitzvah is and what you've done with all your good deeds that you're filled with, like a pomegranate which has 613 seeds. Okay, now we're getting close to the chapter 12 that I've been promising all week. I hope that we have time to do it, but this is okay. We could continue on Erev Sukkot. Why not? You got your sukkah up probably already, right? Fine. It's 6 o'clock. We got about what, 40 minutes? That's pretty good. So chapter 11, it's the Maimer B'Kachal, the Rebbe Marash, Tafshin Lamed Zayin. Taf Reish Lamed Zayin. I said Shin before, but that's 100 years after. Yehine Gilu Simcha Hazu, the Zu Simcha. This rejoicing, Gam Kenayidei Habina, is because we celebrate Mother, the Mother of understanding. Yehine Kameshin Nisbar Leil Be'inyan Halamed Beis Nesivas Chachma. That what we said earlier regarding, in chapter 10 actually, the last chapter, the 30, I skipped some of it, but here is referencing the 32 pathways of wisdom. Yesh nesiv echad asher lo yadu ayeh. There is one path that no one knows where it is. We did this in the beginning of the week, I skipped to the end. Ken bechinas abina yesh gam ken mashalei ba bechinas sagadayim. There is an aspect of understanding that's out of reach, but destined. Tehine chamishim shar bina nivru ba'ilam. So the reason why we say 32:1 that's not known is because that's how you get the 31, the name of Yaakov, which was Kel. There's like a hidden away treasure that tops it all off. And here we're saying the same thing. We know that the Nun Share Bina, the 50 gates of Bina, the 50th was withheld temporarily. There's an aspect of understanding that's out of reach, but will be fully experienced soon. Nobody, thank you, l'chaim to you too. I appreciate that, fireworks. We got to be lit. There's no other choice. It's urgently important that someone has to be lit. Everybody who's not suffering should owes it to the rest of the people who are suffering that they should say l'chaim for refuah shleima to the world. Fine. Here we go. Menachem is gracing us. As we're waiting for Zuckerberg to patch us in, there's not even the greatest tzaddikim have never experienced the 50th gate. It's a reserved thing. It says that Moshe, the greatest of all prophets, it says that he was lacking something. Me'atz Melokim, he was lacking something of Elokim. He was Ish Elokim. I guess his Ish made it somewhat.
Oh my God. Oh my God. We're on live.
Yes.
Here's my sukkah, man.
Wow. You live in a sukkah the whole year, though, I thought. You're always
where I live, man. It's my home.
Of the holy.
Holy, holy, holy. The world is filled with his glory. How are you? L'chaim. What are you learning about today? Tell me.
Well, it's interesting that although wisdom is higher than Bina, understanding, we celebrate Bina. I mean, water we celebrate on Sukkot time, which is interesting also. But it comes with wine. So it's like more of a wisdom that's finally understood. We understand why you have faith. When you don't see any color on the water, you don't taste anything, it doesn't make you affected, except it keeps us nicely alive, Baruch Hashem. But that becomes a foundation for the entire year. And Bina is the main thing. And Bina is what's celebrated, which is wine. And ultimately, the Nun Sharabina are to be given at the 50th gate of understanding, which was unattainable by anyone, even Moshiach Rabbeinu could not, the greatest of all prophets could not experience the 50th gate while alive in the world. That's something observed, that the ultimate source of nourishment will be from the physical body. The souls will be nourished from our physical bodies. So Moshe Rabbeinu, who's been in Gan Eden for a long time, has to come into the physical world to experience the ultimate in delight, because the physical world is related to the makifim of Bina. The makif is the realm of Sevev. So you have a world that has its systems and its value system and its relativity, one thing to the other, and then you have something that says, you know what, I made these rules. That's Sevev, the beyond, and that's what's reached by the physical world, because nothing can explain a physical existence. Spiritual existence is like billiard balls being shot, but you make a huge leap when you bring that into world of physical. But the fact is that the transcendence transcends both spiritual and physical equally. So you're connecting with something that is fundamental and original and the author in the truest sense. That's only possible in physical body. That's where we're saying when you get the 50th gate of Bina is destined for every single Jew to reach higher than Moshe Rabbeinu himself achieved.
Like me and you? How can we reach it, man? How do we go?
Well, here it's talking about the joy of the future redemption when Hashem showed you everything that you worked on through your whole soul's journey through like 50 incarnations or whatever, right? You're in a brand new soul like the Alter Rebbe, right? Ultimately, in time, you're going to have the reward. It's going to finally come. It's a promise Hashem wants you to see what you've accomplished throughout all that time. But he wants us to do it on terms that use our mind. We had it imposed on us on the giving of the Torah, this experience that we didn't really deserve. We hadn't affected ourselves that we are now a vessel for it. It was just there, equally to everybody. But now we're going to have refined ourselves for many generations until now we're fit to be spoken to on our terms. Like we're as nuanced as a soul can get in our generation, and having gone under so much effort and so much suffering for generations, we have achieved the rectification of the world, as the Rebbe says. So now what we can understand what the celebration is, because Bina is the celebration, the 50th gate is the ultimate celebration. And we get a taste of that on a special times like Sukkot, when the spiritual realm is partying, like in their spiritual way of just basking in the Shekhinah. And when we align ourselves with that and we celebrate here in this physical world in your physical sukkah, then you've just aligned yourself with the reality as it is in the spiritual world, and you become the main place for drawing all that divine energy into all the worlds, and a new initiate to what's already experienced and obvious and overt in the spiritual realm. God is happy, so to speak, or God makes the souls happy on Yom Tov, and we know that and meditate on that and celebrate and dress up for that, and that's exactly what's going on up there. And now God allows us some inspiration as the reward or as the effect of aligning ourselves in that way. So what are you saying?
So we're inspired by at that moment in time. We're inspired. We feel a godly energy that's passing through us. We're all sitting in the sukkah.
What our soul's always experiencing, because it's really familiar with Hashem. We get some feeling from that. It might come from the periphery, like you're just around good people and you feel elated, you feel elevated. But that is your soul's elevation, and now it's speaking to you in terms that you relate to in a more physical, down-to-earth, present in this world frequency. When you're focused on that, when you're davening with your eyes closed and saying Shema, you're in a different state of mind than when you're buying a hamburger.
Right. So the sukkahs is buying a hamburger kind of thing. Like we're grounded.
Yeah, you're supposed to do, like if you play Monopoly in the sukkah, you are surrounded by Bina equally as if you're davening there and saying
You
Shema.
want to play Monopoly in the sukkah?
I think it's a good idea for if you need to do that with children. If you can't talk with them at the table, like if we're bringing it, then you have to make time. You have to go fishing with them or whatever.
Right. So you could do things inside the sukkah. You could play Monopoly. You could play code names. You could play,
Yeah,
play all types of games. Just as long as they're in the sukkah having fun.
yeah. You could bring your
It's the
bongo.
makif. It's the makif idea, right? It's like surrounding light. It's
Right.
like you want to be in that space. It's like Bina, isn't it? Makif Bina. It's like the woman. It's like a motherly surrounding light. It's a kind of like maternal thing, isn't it?
Yes. Surrounding here, the analogy was that the physical realm is what is related to the save of Kalami. That's
Isn't it?
what makif means.
Isn't it like a womb or something? Isn't the sukkah like a womb?
Oh, that's interesting. It's like, oh, yeah, it could be because it really is related to Pesach when we came out of Egypt. We had huts. The huts weren't huts. The huts were clouds. But it's the equivalent. God made like a cloud hut for us.
Right, cloud hut. Like Pizza Hut. It's like Pizza Hut. Cloud hut.
Like,
So that cloud hut gave us.
it had a sukkah. I don't understand why you had to hide behind a cactus if he had a sukkah. He must have gone on, like he went out into the wilderness, he made a sukkah, and then he said, you know what? I'm abandoning this sukkah. I'm going to go out there, and then all there was a cactus.
That's
and
it.
Have the strength to get back to a sukkah.
Shelter.
Far from your Batmobile,
Batman.
the Havdil.
Batman and Robin, man, in the sukkah. They're in the Bat Cave. There you go. It's like a womb. The Bat Cave is a womb, and they're in there, and then they come out to like save the world.
Think about it when I got distracted. So that was the birth of a nation. We were at our infantile state of our existence at that moment, and so yes, we were put in, like we were taken care of. All of our needs were taken care of, just like the embryonic state. But then on the other hand, it said that the exodus from Egypt is a birth.
So it's not like a womb. That the sukkah is and is not like a womb in the sense that
It's sort of like you need to be protected. So it's like an extension of that. Like it's basically the crib that you have.
Don't you feel happy when you're happy, when you're secure, you're happy, right?
Yeah. So Bina, understanding, you feel to understand something is to feel much more at ease with it because you know what you're dealing with. You don't have the surprise, like Chochmah is like the lightning bolt, which has a surprise to it.
Nice. There's no surprise here.
Understanding is more about unpacking. It says that pleasure is specifically in drawing something out, the Rebbe Marash writes.
That's so cool.
Yes. So whereas Chochmah, you don't celebrate Chochmah. Chochmah was Yom Kippur. That's Abba. Where Abba? The light of Father is revealed. It's wisdom. It's silent. It's spiritual. But Bina, the celebration of Sukkot, is something much more visceral. That's not where I was going with that, but l'chaim anyways.
L'chaim, man. L'chaim to you. I got to get a beer. Next time I come on, I have to get a beer and have a beer with you.
Yeah, that you draw out. Pleasure is always drawn out. So Chochmah, wisdom is a lightning bolt, which is very fast, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Bina, understanding, is the gestation period, takes 9 months. It's a drawn out process of development and shaping ourselves.
You know what Freud says? Freud says that pleasure is the release from pain. So it's kind of like the birthing process, right? So
Say that, it's like the default position. Once you get rid of the pain, then you just that makes sense because we say that. Here we're learning about Tainik Beira. I'm trying to get to that. I don't know if I'm going to achieve it today, but it's still good. the ultimate point is Hashem's pleasure to be experienced by us. So the reality of the world is divine infinite pleasure. Now all of our pain is our yeshus, is our self-concept. And once we free ourselves of that, then we expose ourselves to the truth, which is Hashem has it good because he's the truth.
Right. So isn't it fear that holds us back?
If it was just fear, then you'd be, once you just say, I'm afraid because Hashem's greater than me, he's infinite and I'm finite, and I have to come to terms with that and experience that. That's very fearful. So, but that's a very awesome and beautiful, holy thing. If we just simply understood our anxieties as the trembling you get in davening, if we can make that shift and then let go of it, because ultimately there has to be a sabbatical, you have to sail.
But like every single day, people in the world, they're worried about their job, they're worried about the war, they're worried about politics. Like that's fear. And that's not productive.
That's called daigas haparnasa. We live in a world, it's difficult to survive in it. And that, the Alter Rebbe writes, is the most prominent impediment to experiencing dveikus.
Wow.
The soul is dveikus in its core. It recognizes the infinite reality of Hashem. And we're terrified of that. I agree with you.
We're terrified of it.
Yeah.
So we can't appreciate it. That's why I wonder, like when you're when you're really young and you don't have to worry about parnasa and this and that.
Right.
It's easier to experience tainuk. You don't have the daigos. Like you're saying, you don't have the pain that goes along with parnasa. That's easier to experience kedusha, right? So it's like only when we start raising home, maybe that's the avoda, is to figure out how to experience tainug without having these anxieties.
The Rebbe begs us to have this tranquility, even though he's so demanding of us. He wants us to be in a state of tranquility. Even through the whole ebb and flow of the love and fear is a ratz of a shave. It's a rhythm. There's an equilibrium that you're supposed to glide across through the whole thing.
So you got to be like tranquil. You got to be calm in the midst of like this back and forth.
You really have to transcend and have all this chassidus in everything you do. It has to be your life. You have to live it, you have to breathe it, and you have to feel the truth and ignore everything else.
Wow. I gotta ignore everything else.
You have to ignore everything else. It only exists because it's part of your ability to experience how you're not just a finite. You are everything. Bishvili nivra ha'ilam. If bishvili nivra ha'ilam, everything is about your perspective. That is the most important. The only thing that you should care about is my perspective a redemptive one? If you have,
isn't it like, so you need to like do some his bonus? You have to like meditate on your own thinking. Don't you think? Isn't our thinking, when I look at my own thinking, like I am very self-critical, and I know that I'm imagining things to be true that aren't, and I'm like, so isn't it our koach dimion, our imagination a lot of the time creates fears, creates anxieties?
Yeah, but saying that the same power is what's used for prophecy, which is the true vision. There's no, how do you pronounce it? Chimera? Chimera?
Chimera.
I don't know how you pronounce it.
Chimera.
The helm of the world disintegrates.
So the helm of the world disintegrates when? How do we get rid of that helm?
You have to put all your knowledge of how there's the unity of Hashem into perceived, felt experience. When you,
I like that.
Faith becomes something that's your bread and butter, that it makes you live, then you don't need to eat or drink. Then you don't have to die to be resurrected. Our soul regenerates. No, our body, our cells, I might say, are regenerated and we don't have to be the same person. We have the ability to break boundaries that limit our ability to heal naturally. For example,
So I hear what you're saying. Isn't that what prophecy is? A prophet, the Rambam calls it ish acher. Is that what you're getting at here? You have to become an other person. Ish acher.
I think ish acher means a much deeper representation of the person. Because I don't think it means to say that he's possessed.
Okay.
He looked like he was possessed, it's true. The Rambam describes how the person becomes agitated and gesticulates, goes into a frenzy. So it looks like he's, but the way that gets communication is through his soul. That's why they had to speak it, because their interpretation becomes pivotal to the vision itself. That Navi had to have that vision because it's his eyes that we have to learn from.
So we have to see through the Navi's eyes.
Yeah.
Through his vision.
Oh. I mean, to my goal as a chassid of the Rebbe is to only draw wisdom from the purest channel of the Rebbe's access to divine wisdom.
So we should make so we should make ourselves into visionaries. I mean, that's just like some kind of Allen Ginsberg kind of dream here. You know, everybody's.
But you have to, because you have a different life experience than the Rebbe, for example.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a source of wisdom that you've benefited from. So you're going to apply it in a way that's only interpreted and heard by you, just like the postmodern idea of the impossibility of true communication, because some interpret it in a different way than it was intended.
Right. Exactly. Like
Our lenses are different.
So if that's always going to be like Derrida's idea is that if it's like you always, I mean to say this, but it's too late because writing takes over. So then you're screwed. I mean, ultimately, in Derrida's world, you can't stop language from speaking itself.
But that's
going on and on.
That's what's intended. That's what's intended. I thought of something that I thought was strange that's related. There's so much cinema. There's so many people that have voices that speak to millions of people. And they always make one assumption, that there is some meaning in life. If you have a movie that there's no poetic justice, it makes no sense. And you very rarely see, what was that Kafka's movie, Naked Lunch?
Naked Lunch, yeah.
No sense to it. You have no movies like that because we, as heretical as Hollywood might be, by denying God, that we always we always ascribe meaning to things. That means everybody believes in God, because else there'd be no meaning. If it's just a chaos of organic, survival of the fittest,
right?
Then there would be no meaning to anything. You could kill anybody at any time, and there would be no. But all of our narratives that we sign up for are the spinal column through it is that there's meaning, and you would expect justice.
Right. We all want justice.
Outrage.
So maybe the whole source of, you got in the world today, you got all these different people fighting for their justice and theirs, but ultimately the real core of that is messianic justice. Is really religious justice. That's the real meaning. Everybody wants justice, but it's a whole war of people.
Justice is that, well, two things that almost contradict each other. Firstly, that Moshiach is going to be so articulate that he's going to convince everybody that his way is the right way. Everybody will see the truth of it, the path of this leader that's going to overwhelm with his charisma, malchus, the entire world.
Right.
But also besides that, it says his merach b'dayan. He smells and he judges. And you know what this means? It's very, very interesting. He smells the environment around the person, the way the person was brought to his darkness, and considers that and finds merit in the person's failures.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. which Morach Madayan is almost the opposite of just convincing people. It's more like this compassion that's endless. It's an endless compassion.
So cool. So it's so that Morach Dayan, that's like a compassion that understands that one's come from this kind of darkness to light. That this one is, we're all coming out of this darkness. We're all coming out, and it's an compassion for that person instead of judging that person as like, who the heck are you?
Out of a tannery, you'd understand why they smelled it the way they do. So Moshiach smells and judges. He knows what the person went through. He knows if a person came from a flower shop and doesn't smell so good, that's also a judgment in a negative sense. You have opportunity available to you. You have to do so much with it because it otherwise we're taking away from what we contribute to the positive fragrance of the world. Chaim.
Interesting. You know, one of the things I saw, I'm gonna say one last thing. I gotta get going over here, but it's very interesting. When I was I went to this Carlbach shul down in 73rd Street, Manhattan, one time, and these homeless guys came in there and they're eating with us during Shalashiddas, the third meal. And I'm like, who are these guys? And they were like, it's a very interesting moment. They were not judging them, and they accepted, and they were there. They wanted to be around these people. They were off the street.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, here they're coming from this darkness, but there's a trust. There's a trust there that they can be themselves, as opposed to being perceived as, as vagrants or dangerous people. Or isn't that the thing? That's what I'm getting at, is like with this fear, is that we can't see people where they're coming from or give them a chance to do tshuva because
because we're fearful, because they might be something that can touch us, as if anything could touch you that you're not worthy of. Technically, you have angels that protect you on left, right, and center.
Yes.
You don't deserve to be spit on by anyone in the street, chas v'shalom, right? So nobody does it to you because you project dignity upon yourself, and you demand dignity from other people because you're human.
I like that. All right, man. Good Shabbos to you. It was amazing. It's always amazing speaking with you.
That was one of our most philosophical conversations. Usually,
dude, I'm always up for these conversations. I have a lot of questions, man, and I think we have a good dialogue. We both have, there's a good thing between us. We can get to the bottom of things. Together.
I like how we both have a literary slant to all.
We do. Literary and philosophical and theological. It's got everything. We just got to figure out how to bring it all together, and I think we're getting there. Okay, man.
Oh, man. All right. Enjoy. Good Shabbos. So that was Menachem Foyer. God bless him. What an incredible man. Incredible yid. I think it's almost candling, but maybe a little bit more. Should we crack another brew? Let's just maybe jump to chapter 12. Because that's where I wanted to get. Welcome. We got maybe 5-10 minutes. I'll try chapter 12, but we have to go back after Shabbos to chapter 11 to finish that off. If it doesn't make sense or something, we'll do that. But we're trying to understand why we say it's more beautiful one moment of returning to Hashem in this world than all of the reward. What makes it more beautiful? The reward is Hashem's creation. And what we do is somehow more beautiful than that. As our sages say, Gabe Karbanas, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, nachas, ruach, l'fanei marti v'nasa retzeni. The sages teach regarding sacrifices that they would offer, and they would eat most of them, by the way. It said, I made a bunch of rules, and I told them to you, and you did what I said. So that causes me a nachas ruach. Hashem says, I'm pleased with my creation. But kameishu b'karbanas kanhu b'kol mitzvahs. And that the same applies to all mitzvahs, not just sacrifices. The reason why sacrifices is the example of where you grant Hashem a pleasing fragrance, fits in with what we said about Morach B'dayan, smelling and judging. And when you consider this idea and meditate on it, you'll understand how great this opportunity in our life in this world is. That then a mortal person who has finite limitations, he can actually cause a nachas ruach to cause, Mandy, that is distracting me, that sound. He can cause a pleasant fragrance, nachas ruach, or Mendy, it's distracting me, the sound. So here in this world, we have an opportunity to give Hashem a pleasure. But the whole idea of the world to come is that Hashem gives us pleasure. See the difference? One's about giving and one's about receiving. One's considered beautiful because it's what we do justice to us. What we have a chira, free choice, and we decided to do something beautiful with it, which is to give as opposed to expect to receive, because the destiny is that everyone will receive. So everyone will have a reward, but the beauty is in using whatever opportunity we have to show our delight and willingness to cause pleasure to our Creator, which is to simply follow the line that He drew for us, which has 613 paths. The world to come is just an experience of pleasure, not pleasing, but experiencing pleasure. And this is where we get to what we sourced. That you can't compare your pleasure to Hashem's pleasure. So it's more beautiful what you do in this world, because now you have the chance to give pleasure to the infinite. Okay? Tainug Beira, Hashem, our Creator's pleasure, is infinite, and therefore that is the reward, is to get a glimpse of Hashem's pleasure from what we did to cause Him pleasure. Sacrifices are the symbol, the emblem of that idea. And I'm going to crack another brew. How much time do we have? Does anyone know the time for Shabbos in Toronto? Do we have any Toronto people out there? If they were in Toronto, they'd probably be here if they had time for bring right before Shabbos. Let me see if this Siri will work while that one's recording. Hey Siri, what time is sunset in Toronto?
Sunset will be at 6:47 p.m. today.
Oh, okay, it's really late. That's why people are dwindling. Okay, so I'm going to have to continue this. I hinted towards the final point. I just started to introduce it, and we'll hopefully understand that after Shabbos even better. Have a good Shabbos.